Welcome back to my next video. Today, we are going to dissect a topic that I know is not pleasant at all, but is extremely necessary for your peace of mind and long-term happiness. Those are the 5 signs that a woman might be cheating or, at the very least, is gradually losing interest in the current relationship. Before we dive deep into this list, I have a critically important note that I want you to remember very carefully. If she exhibits 1 or 2 of these behaviors, it does not absolutely mean she is 100% having an affair. I am not someone who can read minds, and every relationship has its own unique ups and downs. However, based on my own real-life experiences and what I have observed in life, if a person is truly cheating, they will almost certainly display behaviors found on this list. My goal today is not to sow seeds of suspicion or make you controlling or toxic, but to help you have a more sober perspective. I always wish for you to have happier, healthy relationships based on absolute honesty. If you feel you cannot trust your partner, then perhaps it is time to reconsider your position in their life. This video is also not exclusively for gentlemen. Ladies, if you are listening, please take note as well. Because human psychology when wanting to leave often has very clear commonalities. Regardless of gender, I myself have never cheated on anyone, but I have been a victim of betrayal. What I am sharing today is not just theory, but painful lessons I have drawn when looking back at the signs that I previously unintentionally ignored. The first sign we need to mention, an instinctive and most obvious sign, is a severe decline in intimate gestures and affection. You know, physical intimacy is one of the most powerful languages of love. It is not merely about sex, it is also about holding hands while walking, a light hug from behind while you are cooking, or simply an accidental but warm touch while both are sitting on the sofa watching a movie. However, we need to be fair on this point. Desire or the level of intimacy can change for many objective reasons. It could be due to excessive work pressure, hormonal changes, or even side effects of a medication she is using. What you need to pay special attention to here is the keyword sudden change. If she was previously someone who loved touching you and always wanted to be near you, but then one day everything becomes as cold as a block of ice, that is a bright red flag. When a woman is no longer proactive in intimate gestures, when she appears indifferent or even avoids you every time you try to get close, it often carries a very heartbreaking implication. Perhaps she's receiving that comfort, attention, and those euphoric emotions from another man, leading her to no longer feel hungry for or in need of intimacy from you. It may sound cruel, but that is a common truth in affairs, or on a gentler but no less sad note, it simply means she has fallen out of love. She no longer feels sexual attraction or a soulful connection with you. It is terrifying to think that someone who once considered you their whole world could suddenly one day feel estranged from your very touch, especially in long-term relationships. But this is a reality we must face. A lack of affection is often the first stepping stone toward a complete breakdown later on. Moving on to the second sign, which is extremely important in today's modern world, a strange transformation in communication patterns. If the two of you are only in the early stages of getting to know each other, this sign will appear very clearly. Recall how enthusiastic she was when you first met. Regular good morning texts, calls lasting hours through the night, or updating each other on every little thing that happened during the day. If suddenly that flow of information is blocked, if your messages are met only with prolonged silence or short, soulless, perfunctory answers, then perhaps her priority has shifted to someone else. Especially in the era of dating apps, competition is immense. If you don't quickly push the relationship from virtual to real with an in-person date or at least a video call, you can easily be submerged in a sea of messages from dozens of other guys who are also trying to approach her. When interest in you wanes, she will no longer feel the need to maintain a constant connection. As for couples who have been in love for a long time or are living together, the change in communication manifests through a lack of transparency. She starts being secretive about her schedule. Previously, she was always excited to tell you how work went or who she was having coffee with tonight. Now, everything becomes ambiguous. She goes somewhere without informing you. She stays at the office much later than usual but gives unconvincing reasons. Or she goes to dinner with friends but absolutely never mentions who those friends are. I am not saying you need to become a controlling person, always interrogating where she is every minute. Trust is something that must be built from both sides, and when you are with someone truly trustworthy, you will have a natural sense of peace without needing to ask questions. But when that sense of peace disappears, when information starts being truncated or bent, that is when your intuition is trying to tell you something. Remember, sudden and frequent changes are the keys to identifying the problem. The third sign is perhaps the most frustrating and confusing thing for men. She suddenly turns around and accuses you. This is a classic psychological phenomenon we often call projection or reverse blaming. When someone is doing something wrong, especially when they are betraying the trust of the one they love, they have to endure immense psychological pressure from their own guilt. To alleviate that burden, and also to create a defense mechanism, they will start suspecting that you're doing the same thing they are. They tell themselves, surely he isn't that decent either. Surely he's sneaking around behind my back. And from there, they start attacking you with baseless accusations. I have a very memorable personal story about this. Back in university, I had a boyfriend, and suddenly, one day he called me in a state of extreme panic, shouting and accusing me of cheating on him. At that moment, I was truly stunned. I had done nothing wrong. I was sitting peacefully in my dorm room watching a movie and enjoying my free time, yet he still cried, cursed, and made a huge scene. Only much later did I bitterly realize that, at the very moment he called to berate me, he had just finished cheating on me. He felt so guilty and could not accept himself, so the only way for him to feel better was to believe that I was just as bad as he was. It is a spiral of insecurity and paranoia that the betrayer creates and then imposes on their victim. If suddenly your girlfriend becomes unusually controlling, always suspicious of your normal social relationships, or makes veiled jealous remarks even though you are always faithful, be extremely vigilant. She might be looking at the world through the lens of the wrongful actions she herself is committing. The fourth sign I want to mention is an unusual change in how she uses social media, or more specifically, posts that are flirtatious or excessively seek attention. We are living in an era where validation in virtual space sometimes brings a false but extremely addictive sense of satisfaction. If you are in love with a girl who naturally has a sexy style, she has always been confident showing off her beauty with bikini photos or glamorous outfits, then that is completely normal. That is who she is, her way of loving herself and sharing her life. However, what is worth noting here is when there is a complete shift in posting style. If she was previously quite discreet, rarely posted personal photos, or only posted simple things, but then one day she starts grooming her appearance extraordinarily, just to take suggestive photos, posting moody captions with hidden meanings, or photos showing off her body that she never did before, that is a sign that cannot be ignored. Why does she crave attention from strangers so much? What is she trying to prove, and for whom? Usually, when a woman begins to cheat or intends to cheat, they fall into a psychological state of needing external validation of their self-worth. Likes and flirtatious comments from strangers are like a drug that boosts their confidence, making them feel they still have appeal and are still valuable. Sometimes, those posts are aimed at a single target she has her eye on, a way of telling that person, I am wonderful and I am single or unhappy. This sudden change often shows that she has voids in her heart that the current relationship cannot fill, or worse, she is paving the way for a replacement. And the final sign, which I think is the most obvious in this age of inseparable objects, she becomes extremely defensive and secretive with her phone. I have always had a very clear concept. Privacy and secrecy are two completely different things. In a healthy relationship, everyone has the right to their own private space, private conversations with friends or family, but that privacy is never accompanied by fear or sneakiness. If you see her always clutching her phone tightly even when going to the bathroom, always turning the screen face down whenever you're near, or being startled and anxious whenever the phone has a notification, that is an extremely shady signal. You don't need to be a prying person or someone who rummages through others' belongings to notice this abnormality. When someone has nothing to hide, they are very relaxed. You might accidentally pick up her phone to check the time or search for something online, and she won't give it a second thought. But when there are dark secrets inside, the phone suddenly becomes a black box full of risks. I see nowadays on social media platforms like TikTok, many girls share about secretly checking their boyfriend's phone while he is sleeping or showering. I have to say truthfully, that is one of the most toxic and exhausting habits you can inflict upon yourself. I myself have been in that state. and I understand how terrible that feeling of a racing heart and trembling hands is when trying to find some piece of evidence. The lesson I learned is if you feel you must rummage through your partner's phone to find peace of mind, then trust between the two of you essentially no longer exists. A relationship without trust is like a car without gas. You can sit in it as long as you want, but it won't go anywhere. If she changes her password without telling you, or has extreme reactions when you touch her phone, then it is almost certain there is something she is working hard to cover up. It might not be an affair, but it is definitely something that she knows if you saw, it would cause big trouble. Dear friends, after going through all 5 of these signs, I want to send you an important message. Never underestimate the power of intuition. Our hearts and brains have a miraculous ability to connect the smallest details to provide a forecast of something being wrong. Often, we have known the truth long before we have enough evidence to confront it. The only reason we choose to ignore these signs is because we are afraid of facing the truth that the person we love most has betrayed us, afraid of starting over, afraid of the feeling of loneliness and the collapse of expectations. But I want you to understand that living in a lie is many times more painful and soul-eroding than facing a harsh truth. Don't let yourself become a pathetic person, always following behind to pick up scraps of affection or fake explanations. If you notice these signs appearing with increasing frequency, choose the conduct of a mature and courageous man. Don't stay silent only to become resentful or seek revenge. Sit down and have a frank, sincere, and brave conversation. Tell her what you're feeling, the changes you have observed, and demand a satisfactory explanation. A woman who still values you, and this relationship will listen and work with you to find a fix. But if she continues to avoid, deny, or find ways to blame you, then perhaps the answer is already very clear. Remember that your value does not depend on whether someone is faithful to you or not. Their cheating is a reflection of their character and weakness, not because you are not good enough or attractive enough. Never let one person's betrayal ruin your faith in love and the good things in life. Hold on to your self-respect. Learn to love yourself first before expecting it from others. If you find this sharing helpful, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel so we can have more meaningful conversations like this. I also look forward to reading your shares and stories in the comment section below. Sometimes speaking your heart out is also a way to heal. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen and accompany me. I wish you always stay sober, strong, and soon find your true half, the person who will cherish you with all sincerity. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.